script in place here, running across the front. Running along here. There's a little bit of a gap along here, which what I'm going to have to do is pound that from the inside to kind of stretch it, which shouldn't be a problem because this thing is way too high crowned. If I push this down, that goes in. So that's the plan here, is to get these things as flush and even as possible. So the first thing I got to do is tack those front two corners, and then I can start making the rest of it fit. I'm going to show you how to weld. I'm going to show you how to weld this up in a bit, but I'm not showing you everything for the simple reason that you don't need to see all the fettling to make it fit. I vice gripped it in, I tacked it. This was a little bit off, so I unvice gripped it. I moved things around. I hit a couple of things with a hammer. Basically, I fettled it until it fit. I got that tacked there. Actually, that's probably pretty much welded, but it needs to be ground and little bits extra. Got it running good along both seams there. I think you recall, but just to refresh your memory, what I did was I measured exactly 20 inches from that edge to there and cut across a couple of inches on both sides. I cut the deck to 21 inches and then I cut these in 20 inches where it was overlapping, and so I get a flush right there. That is absolutely flush. This side here, not quite so flush, but when it comes time to do the weld, I'll just stick a screwdriver in there and make it flush. I cut around these corners just a little bit so that I would be able to make it flush without warping the metal. Once this is tacked to, about there, I'll do there, I'll leave this float. So do the same here and here, leave this float. Then I'm going to get underneath, and I'm actually going to pound this up a bit so it matches a little better. When I get them close, then I'm going to do the same thing I did with where my signal light or my bumperette holes were. I'm actually going to tack, and then slice, tack, slice, tack, to bring this so it's exactly dead flush. There are videos on how to do that all over the web. So that is where that is. So I would show you everything, but I'm running out of space on my camera. First of all, second of all, you really don't need to see all of the everything because it'll take hours to run through the video, and you don't need that. So I'm going to sign off, and the next thing you see, that'll be tacked and flush. That'll be tacked and flush. And once that's done, then and only then will I get in and do all those plug welds. Yay. Just in case stuff needs to move around, then it can. I'm not looking forward to all those plug welds. I really am not. I'm also very happy that I decided to take the floor out of that trunk, because that's been a godsend from the quarter panels to this. I don't think I could have done it without. Just before I get started, one other thing I did is, this is actual like duct tape, like metal tape. It's holding in a copper backer plate, which I have shaped with a hammer and dolly to match the shape out here, because this gap is too big to weld. Gives me a backing plate. I'll do the same on the other side. That way I won't end up with these massive holes and whatnot. So that's the plan. Okay, did a cut just down the middle here, from there to there. Just followed along the edge. So what I'm going to do, I did some hammering, obviously, but they're still on slightly different angles. So what I'm going to do, get the screwdriver in there, find where it's, there, it's exactly flush there. So I'll tack it there. Then I'll go over and I'll just keep working my way from the middle to the outside, because remember, these can still jiggle about, right? So if I start in the middle, that's where my main flatter surface is. And I'm just gonna tack it all the way out. Bring this back until that's there. That's flush there. So that's where I'll weld it there. Yeah, you get the idea. And she's tacked in. Managed to keep everything pretty straight and even. Just using a screwdriver, wedge things, make sure they're flat. And yeah, this is just the tacking. But I tacked fairly close because anytime you want to weld between those, anything go more than maybe more than 1/4 of an inch, you're going to warp the metal. So I tend to do it real close so the metal can't move. And what I'll do is I'll just keep tack until it's all full. I'll grind it, and then if there's any holes, I'll fill them in, but there shouldn't be if I do it right. Okay, my bad. I thought I had the, I thought I'd hit record when I put the copper on and welded across. Anyway, lots and lots of tack welds. It's in place. I've ground it. It's got just a little bit of a, you can kind of see it right there. It kind of dips in a little bit from heat. There's another one right there. Just dips in a little bit from heat. I'm going to hammer and dolly that out. And if that doesn't work, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my blowtorch. I'm going to heat and blow air to shrink the areas where it's expanded down. Get it within the realm of being able to body work it. I mean, if this was a $150,000 Jag, I'd metal finish the whole thing. It's not. I have no intention of metal finishing the whole thing. But I want to get at least to a point where, you know, there's not, if a magnet can't stick, then I haven't done a good job. So I want to get it under 1 millimeter of deflection there, and that's what I'm going to do. Then once that's done, I can paint the underside of it, and the back end is going to be ready to go. Well, ready to set aside for the winter anyway, which is kind of what where I'm wanting to get to, because I don't want to be taking this thing in and out of the garage through the winter. So that's why I've been kind of hitting it hard here. Anyway, enough of my droning voice. You guys have a good night. I'm going to go have a beer. Heirloom Austin is looking a little more complete. I got here's a better look at all the stuff that I've done. I got the turtle deck on. Those little spots and there's the homemade repair panels in place. This here, because they were from 2 different cars, they had slightly different curvature. They had some oil canning. You can see from the spots. I heated with a torch, cooled it with air. That shrunk the metal. I did a previous video on that. So now there's no oil cans anywhere. So it's nice and firm and solid. I'm not surprised it had a little bit difference in shape. Like I say, they were from 2 different cars, so I'd expect them to be curved a little different. But I got a body work together. I think it looks pretty good. So I'm going to throw some fiberglass reinforced filler over the seam itself, just in case there's any pinholes. I don't think there are, and then we'll start the smoothing process and block sanding. Got a layer of fiberglass, stop pinholes on the weld or join. Got it rough sanded down with 120 grit. There's a couple of there. That's a bad one still. There's one here. There's a bit of an oil can. These ones I've dealt with already, you can see. Firmed them up. This one needs a little more, probably right about there. So we're going to just shrink that down and get rid of the oil cans. There. I'm finding the spot where I can push the deepest. You can see the color forming, and you actually, close up, you can actually see it expanding out. There, now. Don't do this with your bare hands, by the way. It'll get a little warm on your fingers. Blue, doesn't have to go blue, can just go blue. And if you're looking for the distance, by the way, I'll hold the torch away. The tip of the flame, where it comes to a point, that tip is the hot spot. That's the most precise. That's what you want on your metal. Any closer and you're actually depriving the flame of a lot of its heat and you're just kind of wasting it. There it goes. I turn the torch off between every blast just for safety reasons. The last thing you want to do is forget it's on, and then you end up with, your hand as a pork chop. And there's a certain amount of chasing too. As you eliminate one spot, sometimes it'll move to another, and you just kind of have to follow it around till you're out of oil cans. I had a good one here after I did that side. So now I made a big one and it shrunk up. Now it's gone, right? So this top part is de-oil canned. There's a little bit of flex there. It's not rock hard, but it's not oil canning. It's pushing in but coming back. It's not popping through to the other side. So that's okay. Right where I circled. The sound you're hearing is the wind out here. It's pretty bad. Well, that's way better. Oh, that even stiffened up that one. So that worked out well. Sometimes it does that, right? You do something in one place, it affects another. Before there was an oil can there, now there's not. So I'm going to put, obviously, and I don't know if I'll do another layer of fiberglass over this or not. I've got enough fiberglass there. There's going to obviously be a skim of filler. I'm not metal finishing the car. I'm going to do a skim of filler, which is similar to putting slick sand on, but I don't need a spray gun to do it. And it's going to be thin. And what I do is when I block it, as soon as I see a hint of metal, done. That's where that goes to. And just to smooth it, block sand it, basically. I'm going to block sand it. So